let's talk about arrays. Now, if you want to use arrays, how to do that in Java? Now, first thing, let's talk about one dimensional. In the case of one dimensional, you can see here we have set of values, and our task is to identify the minimum. We know what is the minimum to. Now we have to write a program to detect it. Now, first of all, when we say minimum of x, what will happen is this will call our function minimum. Since our main method is static, it can call any other static method. So it called minimum. And this x actually gets passed and assigned to this a. So when we want to take array as a parameter, you have to put a square bracket. Then only it understand that you are passing a array to it. Otherwise, it won't, or it will give an error. So remember that whenever you are using arrays as parameters in the function or method names, you have to do this way. Now, when you pass x, what exactly happens is the first memory address of it will get stored in this a. Because as soon as you have the first address internally, you can access the array locations, next consecutive memory locations easily. That's how the internally things happen. Now, once you have x containing the array reference, now what will happen? So here, if you see, we are taking the first value as value, which is this value variable. We are taking the first value of it. What's value? What is it? It is 93. So this we are storing here. So 93 is stored here. Now, once 93 is stored, here we start with m equal to 1. Why? Because we already picked a0. So we don't need to look at the a of 0 location. We have to directly start with a of 1, which is this. So from here, we start our journey and we go up to a dot length. A dot length is nothing but the one which tells you the total number of elements. And how many elements are there? We have 4 elements. That means this loop will run 4 times. But since we started with 1, it will run for 3 times. So each time it gets incremented and checks. So first it will check if value greater than a of m is 1. So it is checking if a of 0 greater than a of 1. Is it? If a of 0 greater than a of 1? Yes, it is. So if value is greater than a of m, so what will get stored? It actually stores your, it just keeps your 93 here. If x greater than 93 greater than 3, this is the condition checks. Is it true? That's true. So value still kept as 93. Value will be equal to a of m. That means since this condition is true, because your 93 is greater than 3, that means now value will be stored as 3. Now here it will store as 3. Now, before even it's printing 3, okay, system.out.println, it will print the value. Remember that we should have put a flower braces to indicate, but this also works. So what will happen is this part of the for loop will keep continuing, and this system.out.println will not print until this for loop is completed. That means once you take value equal to a of 0, which is 93 in this case, after that, the loop starts with 1 and goes up to the end of the element, which is 2 here. So first it will check if value greater than m is 93 greater than 3. It will check is 93 greater than 3. Then the value will be stored. It is true. Then the value will be stored. The value will be stored as 3. This is your value. Again, now the turn to 9 comes. 9 will be checked. Is 9 greater than 3? Is 3 greater than 9? 3 greater than 9 is not correct, right? 3 greater than 9 is not correct. 3 is less than 9. So it will be skipped. Now 2 comes. Now again it will check, is 3 greater than 2? Correct, 3 is greater than 2. So now what will happen? Whenever it is true, we will change it. Now the value will be changed to 2. Now the value is updated with 2. Now, since the loop is completed, it will come down and print whatever the value is. And what is the value contained? 2. And that's your answer. So that is how it navigates from one element to another to figure out the negative element. Here are few things to do it. Sometimes people actually, instead of putting the first value, they actually put some negative value or 0, which is not a good choice, because you have to go with what are the elements given to you. So always go with the elements given to you. Always keep the first element, which is the best way to do it, because if you are trying to find minimum, let's say you have given only positive integers, then in that case, if you are taking a negative value, maybe it might work. In the case, maybe it might, if you're just considering positive and negative values in the list, in the array, and if you're taking a negative value, maybe it will work because your data also contain negative numbers. But what if think a scenario where you have only positive numbers and you have put a negative value as the default value, something like -1, which is not there in your data. So your program still says -1 is the minimum, even though your data did not contain it. So that's why it is very important that you consider only the one which is actually given to you, not the other ones. Now, let's talk about array class. So similarly, like if you remember, I said like arrays are fixed, arrays do not have, you cannot dynamically grow array and all, but in collections we can have some arrays which can grow dynamically. This is that guy. So now if you see, this array class actually contains a lot of methods. Not only that, it is a dynamic one. Another advantage with this particular arrays collection is that it helps you to do several other operations like searching arrays, comparing and filling array elements, and also sorting. Now, here are some of the methods. There are even some more. Like these all methods, if you look, binary search equals fill sort. Sort it for sorting data. Fill is for filling data with some value. Equal is for comparing whether two arrays are equal or not. Binary search is for doing binary search. So binary search is something like where you actually, it's one of the data structure. If you read computer science, you will know about it. In generally binary search, what happens is you actually takes a list of elements. You first sort it out, then take the middle value. From middle value, what you do is once you get the middle value, you break it up into two parts, and each of these two parts will be again going to the same iteration. Again, middle value, break it, again, middle value. Like that, it keeps on going into that iteration. That's called binary search because it each time breaks the entire data into two parts. So anyway, but this is all taken care. We don't need to worry about it. One thing, interesting thing we have to understand here for arrays classes, all this can take any primitive data type. When you say primitive, primitive means basic data types or standard data types. Primitive here means it can be integer, it can be float, it can be long, it can be unsigned long, signed long, all the primitive data types, including character also. All that are possible. So this can be overloaded. When I say overloaded, the same method name can be used for different data types as well. That's the gist of this part.